Retroactive Co-Authorship Dawson Preethi's original theory of the learning universe.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a theory that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but is actually grounded in some very real, very strange physics. It's an idea from a paper by Dawson Preethi EA, and it suggests that the past isn't set in stone, and that you, right now, are helping to write it.
You know, we all tend to think of the past as, well, past. It's done. It's a movie that's already been filmed, right? But what if that's not the whole story? What if the past is more like a rough draft, and the final version isn't decided until we, here in the present, take a look back?
And this quote right here, this is the absolute core of it. The universe isn't some pre-written computer program. It's a self-revising manuscript, a living document. And what's the editing tool? Well, it turns out it's us, our awareness, our measurements. That's the feedback that causes the rewrite.
Okay, so an idea this huge and this strange, where does it even come from? Well, you might be surprised to hear that its roots aren't in philosophy, but in the bizarre, mind-bending world of quantum physics.
This is where things get really wild. Scientists have run these things called delayed choice experiments, and what they found is, well, it's baffling. It seems that the way you decide to measure a particle right now can actually influence the path it took to get to you, in the past. It's almost as if the past itself is in a state of suspense, just waiting for our present observation to tell it what it was.
So, these weird quantum results are really just the first breadcrumb. This whole theory of retroactive co-authorship is actually built on two even bigger clues from the cosmos. One is about our role in the universe, and the other is about what information really is.
The first big clue comes from the brilliant physicist John Wheeler. He came up with this idea of a participatory universe. He basically said that reality, on its own, is just this fuzzy cloud of possibilities. It only becomes real, solid, and definite when something or someone observes it. We're not just watching the show, folks. According to Wheeler, we're literally part of the cast, helping to create the scene just by looking at it.
Okay, clue number 2 is the fact that information isn't just an abstract concept. It's a physical thing. There's this rule called Landauer's principle, and it proves that even something as simple as deleting a single bit of data from a computer has a tiny but real physical cost. It releases a little puff of heat. Now, why does that matter? Because if the past is being rewritten, this principle tells us that's not just some metaphor. It has to be a real physical process.
So, we've got these weird whispers from quantum mechanics, and these bigger clues about participation in physical information. Let's put it all together and really dig into this central idea here, retroactive co-authorship.
So here's the theory in a nutshell. When we do something informational, like observing an experiment, or heck, even deleting a file, we're not just recording a past that was already there. No, we're actually selecting the one version of the past that could have led to this present moment. The universe then instantly and constantly renormalizes its entire history to make sure everything stays consistent and logical with this new fact.
I think this really captures the shift in thinking. The classical view on the left sees the past as a dusty, locked archive. The story is written, done, can't be changed. But this new view sees the past as a living manuscript. It's a story that's constantly being edited, and the ink only really dries once we, in the present, add our own observations to the page.
But wait, how does this whole rewriting process happen without just creating total chaos and paradoxes? Well, the theory proposes this elegant four-step process. First, imagine every possible history that could ever exist. Then, step 2, an informational act happens. You make an observation. Instantly, the universe does a coherence check and erases all those potential histories that don't align with your new observation. And finally, one single, consistent past that works with everything we know now gets locked in.
Now, for any of this to work, for reality to feel stable and not like a crazy dream, there have to be rules, right? If the universe is a story, it has to have some kind of grammar. The theory calls these the cognitive conservation laws. They're what keep the story of reality on track.
Think of these like the laws of physics, but for awareness itself. For instance, continuity of identity is the rule that makes you feel like the same person you were 5 minutes ago. It's a conserved quantity. Or semantic invariance. That's just a fancy way of saying that the meaning of a tree is still the meaning of a tree whether you think it, say it, or draw it. These rules are the guardrails that prevent reality from just dissolving into nonsense every time we learn something new.
So all this brings us to the biggest question of all. If the universe is a story being written, and it follows these kinds of rules, what part do we play?
This is where the theory really gets profound and puts us right at the center of the cosmos.
According to this idea, conscious beings like us are reflexive nodes. That's a cool term, but what it means is that we are the points where the universe becomes aware of itself. It's through our eyes that the cosmos sees. It's through our minds that it learns and understands. We're not just living in the universe. We are the universe, experiencing and remembering itself. We are its memory.
Look, this isn't just some fun, abstract idea. The implications are absolutely staggering. Scientifically, it might mean that information is the most fundamental thing there is, even more basic than matter or energy. Philosophically, it completely erases that line between me and the universe. And then there's the ethical side. If every act of discovery is an act of creation, then we have a genuine cosmic responsibility for the reality we are helping to write. And that leaves us with one final, very powerful thought. If we really are co-authors of reality, if our awareness is the pen that helps finalize the manuscript of the cosmos, then every single thing we choose to learn, to measure, to observe is an act of creation. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what kind of universe are we choosing to write into existence?